and then a plane taking off in some shithole place. I can't quite picture what it was.
Oh, yes. I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Oh, hello, Baltimore. Got to be on Andy's list. Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Audiophiles. My name's John. His name's Andy. One night, I was laying down. I heard Mama and Papa talking. I heard Papa tell Mama, let that boy be woogie. It's in him, and it's got to come out. And I felt so good when I'm boogieing, just to say. More on that later. But first, we have a track to listen to. So, Andy, you're up for bat, as you like to say, when you're playing rounders. So, what have you got for us?
Well, I have a group called Primitive Radio Gods. Does that name ring any bells? Okay.
Not even a tinkle.
Okay, excellent. The name of the track, and brace yourself here, it's a long one, is Standing Outside a Broken Phone Booth with Money in My Hand.
Oh, existential crisis, eh?
Yeah. We've all been there 30 years ago or whatever, whenever phone booths last existed. But yeah,
there was a time when they used to work. They just smelt of piss and fags.
Yes.
You know,
true. If you're
lucky,
they
start working as well. Yeah.
Oh man. Well, please go off, give Primitive Radio Gods a listen, and this long-winded title of their track, and let me know what you make of it on the other side.
Official hiss. A nice start. It's got one of those standard beats. It's kind of refers to hip hop, but it isn't really. I like the bass. It's doing a sort of like plodding, just gently moving you forward. That sample, I don't know if they played with it. Sounds old school. Sounds like a blues singer. Sounds like someone. No. Can't get it. But yeah, this is very much like a vibey type song from the vocals I just heard there. We'll see how it goes. Moonlight spills on comic books and superstars in magazines. An old friend calls and tells us where to meet. A plane takes off from Baltimore and touches down on Baltimore. Street. I heard that. Hang on a second. Those bells sounded a little bit ominous, and the fact that they were out of tempo, it was just like, you may be doing your song, but I'm going to do my own time, whatever. Yeah, it just made it a little bit sinister, actually. Let's just go back a sec. Sit outside and argue all night long about a God we've never seen, but never fails to side with me. Sunday comes and all the papers say Ma Teresa's joined the mob and happy with her full-time job. that bass work and there's do 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 do. It's like a bit of a touch of Walk on the Wild Side. Just me? Okay. That's nice. There's a little skip there. I think that's just a digital error rather than what they were doing the song. That makes sense. I really like that piano solo though. It was kind of cascading and yeah, it's one of those ones where very almost temporary, just wafting out. If you try and hold it in your hand, it would dissipate in your fingers. Yeah, I like that.
Seconds ticking killed us all a million years before the fall. You ride the waves and don't ask where they go. You swim like lions through the crest and bathe yourself in zebra flesh. There you go. An interesting ending. That sort of swirling and massive. When he came back in and he sang the sample as well as a sample going, and that bell was going, it really clashed and didn't sound great at all. I was like, Jesus. but there was like a big whoosh, and then other stuff started coming in, and that chaos I liked. And so yeah, so this is one of those sort of 90s, 90s vibe pieces. That sort of indie down tempo puts me in mind of what's like Sneaker Pimps sort of stuff. Um, doesn't really do a whole lot, this song. A nice piano solo, really nice piano solo. But the rest of it, if you like it, you like it. But if you don't initially, it's not going to draw you in. It just, this is what it is all the way through, pretty much. I liked it. I thought it was a really nice sort of feel to it. Nothing exceptional, but yeah, really pleasant to listen to. Primitive radio gods. We must find out more. What the hell's going on, and who was that sample? I must know. And anyway, doing that, it's going back speaking with Brother Andy.
All right, you're back. And what did you make of this tune, my friend?
Okay. Yes, existential crisis for sure. It starts off with this sort of regulated beat. I mean, I guess all beats are, apart from some jazzy ones, but do you know what it reminded me of? It's like a slightly slower version of the clickety clack of a train in motion on the tracks. And actually, the beat just mimics this throughout the song, unrelenting and unchanged. It's got kind of echoes of kind of hip hop adjacent, but not quite that sort of thing. But with that and the bass notes that are these sort of, long, ponderous bass notes, it kind of depicts the well, I said on the reaction, it sort of, plods your way through moving forwards, but it kind of almost denotes the passing of the landscape in a very lazy, unhurried motion. So you get this laid back indie down tempo sort of feel to it pretty much straight away. And then we get these samples come in that sound to my ear, and it does kind of piss me off because not the sample, but because they sound old school blues vocals, and surprisingly, I can hear the samples cleaner than I can hear the main singer's voice. It's like I've been downhearted, baby, ever since the day we met, something like that, and it sounded really familiar. And by the middle to the end of the song, I was really pissed off with myself. I couldn't place who it was because it did sound like someone I should know. But anyway, so that starts that, and then the singer begins, and he has that sort of subdued, almost slackery voice that fits in with his down tempo songs of the 90s, as we said. Kind of, in a way, if you take out the upbeat chorus, it's sort of Space Hulk, that in the meantime, the verse bit is very similar. And Snoop Pimps to me really to mind as well. That I know it's a woman singing, but again, it's that same sort of vibe. So it's a piece of music which had a feel to it, which took me right back, even though I hadn't heard this song before. It just took me back to that time and that place. It was quite cool. I'll get some of the lyrics, not many, you'll be surprised. Something about comic books, superstars, magazines, and then a plane taken off in some shithole place. I can't quite picture what it is.
Oh, yes. I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Oh, hello, Baltimore. Got to be on Andy's list. And touches down on Bourbon Street, which I think we mentioned in a couple of episodes back as well about famous streets and all that sort of thing. Which was that was quite entertaining. And then we get, I think these bells, I think they're church bells ring. And yeah, they're out of tempo with the song. Do not ask the tolling for, just in case. But the way they clang, independent of the song, is quite eerie, I found. It's almost like, you may have your song, but fuck you, I've got my own time, and and there's an association with bells, time, obviously, and mortality and ritual as well. And I found it just a little bit ominous and a bit sinister. And it's interesting the way that they just clanged, completely missing the beat. They were a completely different time. So we get to another, get through to another verse, and the synths rise, like little plateaus until we get to the first do 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 do's, which combined with the sort of the bass, that plodding bass, and the do's, it gives me a smattering of Walk on the Wild Side, the reads.
Of
I mean,
course.
it sort of gives me that, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and that bit which we can't mention nowadays. Yeah, and the nature of the slow plodding bass in particular for me gives an air of like dissatisfaction to it. Like, they're not quite. And I'm guessing because I'm only getting like snatches of the lyrics, but that's the overall feeling I'm getting. The sample comes in again, and then before the next verse, and I get again little pieces. Thoughts that drift away. Summer comes for everyone, I think. If I die, money paid, half asleep. And I realize that these snatches, the lyrics aren't helpful at all to me. But I'm getting this sense from that verse of disconnection. And maybe some thoughts on mortality as well, which we're getting with ringing the bells. We get another round of doo-doos with another jet plane flyby for who knows what reason. And then sort of tumble into this really charming piano solo. And it has this lovely cascading dreamy feel to it. But like some sort of cascading things you get are quite regular in the way they fall down.
Mhm.
But this is more like it was a spreading out, and then falling. And I think I said in the reaction, it's one of those ones you feel like if you try to hold it in your hand, it would dissipate in your fingers. It had that sort of lovely, dreamy, temporary quality to it. Really hard to sort of reproduce. I thought it was great piano solo, really interesting. So then we get another verse, and the music again. Oh, that's my ears to see me is building slightly, and just a few more do's, and then we get after that, but then we get this sort of bouillabaisse of sounds. We get more synth chords, touch of guitar, a distorted vocal sample, and there's some other sort of smatterings, but this one is like sounds like a bullhorn that's been really. And used to get that quite a bit in the 90s, that sort of vocally over the top.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was not uncommon. But then when the bell strikes as well, and the bell sounds louder, more clanking, at that point, it's all really jarring to me. And he sings the sample line. I think it's him. Well, the sample lines are sung as well as sampled as well. And at that point, I think this is not working at all. And then there's this big synth zwoosh, and then it goes into the next bit, which is even more chaotic, but actually works really well. I don't know what about that I just didn't find jarring, because I love a bit of chaos. But yeah, I wish I knew what that sample was, because it must be significant, because he sings it as well as sampled it. So it means something to him anyway, obviously, whether it means nothing to me. But there you go. So yeah, we get more swishing, and we get loads of different synths coming in. We get things bubbling and knocking against each other. Something that's very akin, a couple of actually parts sound guitar-like. I think one was a guitar and one was a synthetic version with these higher notes. And it all sort of melds together and then just fades out. That last part aside, I'd say that, I mean, this is very much a mood piece, create a vibe, and it doesn't really do too much throughout. And I think either you like it or you don't, and you take it on that. I did like it actually, and I did like that sort of vibe. As I said, it took me straight back straight away. And then this interesting sort of like swirl at the end. Haven't got a Scooby's what it's about, really. I guess the guy's pissed off. That's all I'm going to say, but in a very sort of mild, passive aggressive way, I'd say. That's the sort of tone I got from it. But there's some interesting choices there. I'd really like to know why he put the bells, the church bells in. That piano solo was just so out of nowhere, and was great. Probably my favorite bit, actually. I did love that swirl, the second half of that swirl melange at the end. That yeah, it made it slightly different to the songs that you had at this time and era and of that genre, if you want to call it. So it's just slightly different. Yeah, so yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm really glad you did. I just think we've done some stuff from the 90s in the past that are so like distorted guitar, power chords, grunge, leaning into the area or around grunge. And we often forget that there are other like subgenres that flourished during the 90s. And I think that this was one of them, this sort of sound, because as you mentioned, you instantly heard it, and rightfully so. We're like, oh yeah, I know exactly where I am. I'm in the heart, the dead center of the 1990s. So yeah, I thought, oh, I should, and this was an interesting song that had kind of like a cult following during its time, but was really all we got from these guys. And I'll explain that a little bit as I go over it. But it was a very popular song when it came out, and it was kind of unavoidable. And I've always enjoyed it, and I enjoy the song that it samples and the artist that it samples, which I'll also get into as I go over it. And I thought, oh, John, there's probably a good chance that John will enjoy this song, or at the very least aspects of it. So I'm glad you did. I'm glad you did. Primitive Radio Gods. They are an American rock, alternative rock band from Southern California, and current members consist of frontman Chris O'Connor, who performs vocals and bass guitar, percussionist Tim Loterio, and Luke McAuliffe, who contributes various additional instruments, guitars, violins, piano, as well as much of the art that has appeared on the band's album and website. They've released 8 studio albums to date, one of which is a collective works album. The former member Jeff Sparks wrote, sang, and played bass before leaving the band to pursue other music projects in 2001. And I guess I should clarify something. When I said that this was kind of all we got from them, I didn't mean from like that they no longer produce anything. I just mean from a successful radio, or we didn't get this sort of a one-hit wonder scenario. I'm glad that they weren't deterred by that and that they continue to write music, because these are a talented group of musicians. So the history of the Primitive Radio Gods begins with the I-Rails, and they were formed in the late 1980s. And the I-Rails were an independent alternative rock band based in Oxnard, California, consisting of O'Connor, the aforementioned Sparks, and the drummer Loterio. The I-Rails released a total of 4 albums, none of which received much public attention. And after the 4th album by them, called Panharmonium, was released in 1990, it was also ignored, and the band decided to split. While Sparks and Loterio went on to pursue other potential careers, O'Connor continued to work with the material originally intended for a 5th I-Rails album. Inspired by bands such as Public Enemy, O'Connor recorded additional material and ultimately mixed a total of 10 tracks. O'Connor recorded the songs on an Ampex 16-track recorder inside of a friend's garage. And after mastering, O'Connor released the demo to public music stations under the misspelled moniker Primitive, but with an A instead of a second I, so Primitive Radio Gods, which was also a song title on the I-Rails album 9 Songs from Nowhere. This, like his former band's work, this album that he called Rocket was widely disregarded by both radio and the general public, and defeated, O'Connor retired from the music business altogether. While house cleaning in 1994, O'Connor rediscovered the box of demo tapes he had packed away years prior. And in a final act of desperation, he mailed copies of the tape to any major record label he could think of. Weeks later, he received a phone call from an executive named Jonathan Daniel from New York City, and the offices of Fiction Records. One unique song in particular had caught Daniel's attention: Standing Outside a Broken Phone Booth with Money in My Hands. A piano-driven ballad over a hip-hop backbeat, which heavily sampled B.B. King's How Blue Can You Get? So there you are. That's the song and artist you could not think of.
I knew I recognized the voice.
Yeah. This was definitely one of the first times, because sampling of stuff was just becoming sort of mainstream at this point, especially outside of rap and R&B. So I think this may have been the first time I heard a song that I had heard before in a new song that I was hearing for the first time.
Right.
So this is sort of because my dad loved B.B. King and, his, fingering of Lucille, if you will. So I've heard plenty of B.B. King in the past, and then heard this and was like, wait a minute, that's on one of Dad's old records. So I just thought it was really cool. And he always was pleased to let me leave this on the car radio because of that connection. So weird little nostalgic bit for me and why I gravitated towards this song. Daniel immediately signed O'Connor to a publishing deal and took him to Columbia Records for a recording deal. Phone Booth, as I'll call it in its abridged version, first appeared on the soundtrack for the black comedy film The Cable Guy in May 1996. And it's like,
Really?
yeah, it's part of the soundtrack on that film. And a slightly remastered Rocket was released the following month. Phone Booth was released to radio as Primitive Radio God's first single and was remarkably successful in the U.S. market. Due to the single success, Rocket was certified gold. Due to the success of Rocket, O'Connor reunited with his former bandmates, Sparks and Lautario, and recruited guitarist Luke McAuliffe to form a complete band. And the foursome toured North America throughout the summer of 1996. I love the idea that these guys are still off doing their jobs that they had fallen into after the I-Rails, just plugging away, and they get this phone call like, "You'll never fucking believe what just happened. You've done nothing, but now you're in a full-blown rock band that is going to put out a gold record." You're like, "Holy shit, dude, I was, working at a flower shop or, baking bagels."
You take off your apron for the warehouse, throw it at
Cloud of flour goes up. Yeah, I'm out of here. So yeah, really, really cool. So due to the success of Rocket, O'Connor reunited the band, and later in the year, the band attempted to release a second single called Motherfucker, which already is a handicap, right? Like, how are you going to get to the same radio play? But the lack of promotion resulted in very little radio airplay, far from yeah, exactly, far from the runaway success that Phone Booth had become. So in early 1997, they began.
I just break. There's only one person who's managed to really do that, and that's Prince, isn't it? It was sexy MF, as it was.
Yeah.
I mean, exactly. And he has a particular, as they say in the film, a particular set of skills that fits it perfectly. I think you've had your first big hit. I don't know. Let's call this one, motherfucker. Yeah, what could go wrong?
Exactly. Shot themselves in the foot. So early in 97, they began writing and recording the material for their, again, as a full band for their next album. And shortly after, Columbia dropped the band without warning or apparent reason. However, Jonathan Daniel, the former Columbia executive who had originally signed them and a self-proclaimed fan of the band, arranged a deal with Hi-Fi/Sire Records for the band's next album, Mellotron On. And in 1999, mere weeks before the album was set to be released, Sire Records and the U.S. division of London Records underwent a merger, causing the release of Mellotron On to be postponed. London Sire did not want to drop the band, but they were having issues negotiating the release of the album. As the band waited for the issue to resolve itself, its members took on day jobs. O'Connor had lived off the money that he had from Rocket.
Can I have my apron back?
Yeah. Please, sir. I didn't mean what I had said. I love baking bagels. But yeah, so the other guys were actually Connor was forced into going into being a flower delivery man after this. So very interesting that they had to go back to their real world in real life after trying to push a song called "Fuck You" or "Motherfucker" rather, and all of this these issues with record labels. So finally, or eventually, London Sire dropped the band, but Jonathan Daniel still insisted in seeing the potential of the band. Signed them to his personal project, his Boulder, Colorado-based indie label, What Are Records. And the second album was finally released in late 2000, retitled White Hot Peach, and consisting of slightly different track listing than Mellotron On. White Hot Peach was made available in certain indie record stores and over a number of online music sharing services such as eMusic and Napster. Those days. In 2001, Jeff Sparks left the band to pursue other musical ventures. While the remaining members had begun to work on a third album, they were no longer attached to What Are Records, instead opting to release future material through their own recording studio and website. And the band has been releasing music in this fashion ever since. And this kind of makes sense because the early 2000s was kind of around when a lot of bands started to release independently and see potential to do so. So this track, Standing Outside a Broken Phone Booth with Money in My Hands, peaked at #1 on the US Billboard Modern Rock charts and AAA charts. It became a crossover radio hit over the following few months, reaching #2 in Canada and #10 on the Billboard Hot 100 airplay chart. The song's title is a reference to the unrelated song Outside a Broken Phone Booth with Money in My Hand by Bruce Cockburn from the 1978 album Further Adventures of. Primitive Radio Gods frontman Chris O'Connor, stated that he was struggling to name his new song, so he picked up Further Adventures of and adapted the title Standing Outside a Broken Phone Booth with Money in My Hands from it. So, let's jump into these lyrics. I've been downhearted, baby. I've been downhearted, baby. Ever since the day we met, ever since the day we met, I've been downhearted, baby. I've been downhearted, baby. Ever since the day we met, ever since the day we met. And that was a sampling, obviously, of King. O'Connor starts. Jen lays down and wrestles in her sleep. Moonlight spills on comic books and superstars and magazines. An old friend calls and tells us where to meet. Her plane takes off from Baltimore and touches down on Bourbon Street. We sit outside and argue all night long about a God we've never seen but never fails to side with me. Sunday comes with all the papers say Ma Teresa's joined the mob and happy with her full-time job. Do, which again, very, very Lou Reed, that portion of the song for sure. I was wondering if you were going to catch it. I was wondering how you were not going to catch it, to be honest with you. So BB King comes in again. I've been downhearted, baby. I've been downhearted, baby. Ever since the day we met. Ever since the day we met. That continues. And then verse 3, O'Connor comes in. I am alive or thoughts that drift away. Does summer come for everyone? Can humans do as prophets say? And if I die before I learn to speak, can money pay for all the days I've lived awake but half asleep? Do. And then we get the fourth verse. A life is time they teach us growing up. The seconds ticking killed us all a million years before the fall. You ride the waves and don't ask where they go. You swim like lions through the crest and bathe yourself in zebra flesh. Do. And this is where O'Connor comes in singing that refrain. I've been downhearted, baby. I've been downhearted, baby. Ever since the day we met. Ever since the day we met. And then King's iteration of it. I've been downhearted, baby. I've been downhearted, baby. Ever since the day we met. Ever since the day we met. Repeats several times until the song comes to an end. And I found this snippet really interesting. We've got Michael Yellen of Glide magazine would write of this song in a sort of a reflective retrospective article in 2014. And he says, O'Connor rocks a flat effect through a melange of datist images and a bunch of fuzzy sepia tone sound effects that filter in and out. The tolling of a church bell adds to the solemnity of the whole scene. Before the final verse, a piano solo sprouts up like the sound and sounds like Thelonious Monk playing a tribute to a fallen fireman on a piano prepared by John Cage. Finally, O'Connor blossoms into full voice at the end of the song, singing BB's lines. It seems that he has moved from numbness to heartbreak, which oddly enough is a move upward. So why does all of this work? More to the point, why has the song outlasted phone booths themselves? One reason is that the song oozes the feels of the mid-90s, something that you were very quick to point out. A nadir between the overweening pride of baby boomers and the chemically enhanced optimism of millennials. As a Gen Xer, I thought you would appreciate that line. The muted tones of the song, the very lack of ambition conveyed by its lo-fi soundscape. It's a nice respite from the mean-spirited smackdowns on reality cooking shows and the constant work anniversary reminders of LinkedIn. Nostalgic? Sure. I have nostalgia for a time when the most pressing political issue were the stains on Monica Lewinsky's dress, and the corporations didn't rely on consumer peers to do their marketing for them through social media. that is the true words of a Gen Xer penned right there. And yeah, and I think it captures that mid 90s lo-fi slacker mentality to a T, which I always gravitated toward and found charming. I know I'm at the earliest cusp of millennial, but I grew up without a computer. I grew up with a bicycle. I grew up with older brothers that were all Gen Xers. I was reared in the Gen X mentality. So when I hear songs like this and write-ups like that I find really actually quite charming, even if they are a bit loquacious, it just reminds me of a time before the internet and all that bullshit. So yeah, I really just a big fan of this tune, and I thought you might be as well.
Yeah, that's a funny writer.
Yeah, it is. It is. So thank you, John, for giving us a listen. I'm really glad you enjoyed it. Glad you got that little Easter egg with BB King, and all the other attributes of this song that one could find interesting. So thank you so much. Guys out there in the listening audience, please let us know what you thought of this band and this track. If you're familiar with this tune, if you're not, if it reminded you of anything else, just drop it down in the comments section. Let us know what you think. Also, while we have your attention, please think about liking, sharing, and or subscribing if you haven't already. It really does help the channel, and we really do appreciate it. All that out of the way, hopefully John and I will see all y'all in growing numbers on the next episode of the Audiophiles. We'll see you later, guys.